I thought I had everything until I discovered my husband's shocking betrayal. The man I trusted, the father of my child, had shattered me in a way I never imagined. But what he didn't know was that the pain he caused would unleash a storm of revenge so fierce, so personal, that it would leave him broken, pleading for forgiveness he would never receive. And in the end, I realized the real power wasn't in the love we once shared. It was in the strength I found when I chose to destroy him piece by piece. I'm Isla Montgomery. I once believed that my life, my marriage, my family were perfect. But when the truth came crashing down, it shattered everything I thought I knew. Betrayal, deceit, and heartbreak became my reality. But they also gave me the strength I never knew I had. And now my story isn't just about survival. It's about something deeper, something darker, a revenge that none of us saw coming. I remember the day everything changed like it was yesterday. The sun had barely risen, casting a soft light through the blinds of our bedroom. I had woken up early, as usual, to start my day, make breakfast, get my daughter, Mia, ready for school, and check in with my husband, Alex, before he left for work. We had a routine that we followed, a rhythm that made our life feel almost safe. I walked into the kitchen, still half asleep, when I saw him sitting at the table, his phone in his hand. I noticed it was open, a message on the screen that seemed out of place. I didn't think anything of it at first. After all, he had always been an open book with me. Or so I thought. But when I reached out to grab the coffee pot from the counter, my eyes caught a glimpse of the message. The words burned into my memory the moment I saw them. I can't wait to see you again tonight. I miss you, baby. It's been too long. My heart dropped into my stomach. I didn't move, didn't speak, but the room felt like it was suffocating me. Alex had always been faithful, at least in my eyes. He'd never given me any reason to question his loyalty. But now? Now the cracks were starting to show. I felt a cold rush of panic. What was I looking at? Who was he messaging like that? I didn't know if I should confront him immediately or just pretend I hadn't seen anything. But there was no pretending, not anymore. Alex, I said, my voice trembling slightly. Who is this? He looked up, and for a moment I saw something flash across his face. Guilt? Panic? I couldn't tell. He put the phone down quickly, trying to smile as if everything was normal, but I could tell something was off. It's nothing, Isla. Just a friend from work. Don't worry about it. But that wasn't enough. I wasn't stupid. I had seen the look in his eyes, the way he quickly dismissed it like it was nothing. But I knew deep down that it was everything. I don't want to make a big deal out of this, he said, trying to change the subject, but I wasn't having it. Who is she? I asked again, more forcefully this time. Who's the woman you're texting like that? He froze. There it was, the lie hanging in the air between us. Isla, let's not make this something it's not, he said, his voice quiet, defensive. I promise it's nothing. I wanted to believe him. I did. But the trust I had in him, the years of marriage that had seemed unbreakable, all of that was crumbling in an instant. I stood there, my heart racing as I watched him. Every instinct in me screamed that he was lying, that there was something going on that he wasn't telling me. The trust I had placed in him my whole life was slipping away, and I felt powerless to stop it. Alex, I whispered, tell me the truth. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stood up and walked past me, avoiding eye contact. The coldness in his behavior was enough for me to know that my worst fear was real. I could feel the tears welling up, but I wasn't going to cry in front of him. Not yet. I was better than that. I was stronger than that. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed his phone from the table, and unlocked it with the code I knew all too well. The messages were still there. And as I scrolled through them, the truth hit me like a ton of bricks. There it was, clear as day. I can't wait to feel you again, baby. It's been so long. My mind couldn't process it. I was numb, my hands shaking as I read the words over and over again. This wasn't some innocent friendship. This was betrayal. He had been cheating on me. I didn't know who this woman was, but I could feel the anger and hurt rising in me, overwhelming me. This was my life, my marriage, and he had destroyed it piece by piece without a second thought. The tears came then, but not from weakness, not from sadness. They were tears of anger, of rage. I had been blindsided, and now I was going to make sure he felt every bit of the pain he had caused me. I didn't know what I was going to do, but one thing was certain. This was far from over. He had no idea what was coming. I couldn't stand the silence that followed. It felt suffocating, like I was drowning in my own thoughts. My hands were still shaking as I set his phone down on the counter, but my mind was working faster than I could keep up. I knew I had to confront him, had to make him face what he had done. I didn't know if I was ready, if I could handle what was coming, but there was no turning back now. I turned to find him standing in the doorway of the bedroom, watching me. His expression was unreadable, a mixture of guilt and frustration, as though he knew this moment was inevitable. He'd known the truth would come out eventually. Isla, please, he started, his voice low, pleading. Let's talk about this. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Talk about what, Alex? The fact that you've been sleeping with someone else behind my back? That's the conversation you want to have? His face twisted with a mixture of shame and defensiveness. I never wanted to hurt you. I never meant for it to go this far. I let out a humorless laugh. Never meant for it to go this far? I shook my head, stepping closer to him. You don't get to say that. You made a choice. You made a decision every time you texted her, every time you saw her. You didn't care about me or Mia or this family. You cared about yourself. He opened his mouth, trying to explain, but I didn't let him. I couldn't. You don't get to lie to me anymore, Alex. I've seen it all. I know everything, the messages, the lies, the secret meetings. You're pathetic. How long has this been going on? How many other women have there been? His face paled and he shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. I could see the guilt eating away at him, but it wasn't enough. Nothing was going to make this better. Nothing was going to fix what he had broken. I'm sorry, Isla, he said, his voice shaking. I'm so sorry. I didn't think about how much I was hurting you. I didn't mean for it to happen. I just... I got lost. I wasn't thinking. Don't, I cut him off sharply. Don't try to make excuses. You weren't thinking, how convenient. But you were thinking enough to send those messages, to make plans behind my back. You were thinking enough to betray everything we built together. His eyes flickered with shame, but there was something else there too. A quiet desperation. I didn't want to lose you, Isla. I didn't know how to fix things. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. I stared at him, disgusted. Confused? You think that makes it okay? You don't get to justify this. You don't get to make it sound like some kind of mistake. It wasn't a mistake, Alex. It was a choice. And you chose her. You chose her over me. I turned away from him, walking toward the window, needing space, needing to breathe. I felt my anger rising with every word. The betrayal was suffocating, and I didn't know how to get rid of it. I don't even know who you are anymore, I whispered almost to myself. The man I married? He's gone, isn't he? You're not that person, and I can't keep pretending that you are. I could feel the tears threatening to spill, but I fought them back. I wouldn't let him see me cry. Not after everything, not after what he had done. I don't know what you want from me, Isla, he said quietly, his voice breaking. I don't know what to do to make this right. I turned back to face him. You can't make it right, Alex. You can't fix this. What's broken can't be mended, but I'm done. I'm done with the lies, the secrets, the betrayal. I can't keep living like this, pretending everything is fine when it's not. I saw the pain in his eyes, the fear of losing me, but it didn't matter anymore. I had already made up my mind. There was no going back. I don't want you here anymore, I said, my voice steady but cold. Pack your things and leave. I want you out, now. As I stood there watching him stumble over his words, I realized something. The man I had loved, the man I thought I knew, was a stranger now, and no amount of apologies, no amount of guilt was going to change that. He left that night, his bags packed, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I didn't feel relief, not at first. But the next morning, as I watched him walk out the door for the last time, I felt a sense of finality wash over me. I wasn't just freeing myself from him, I was freeing myself from the lies, from the man I had allowed myself to become blind to. I wasn't sure what the future held for me or Mia, But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let him destroy me. He had made his choices. Now I was going to make mine. The next chapter wasn't going to be about the pain he caused. It was going to be about rebuilding, about showing him and everyone else that I was stronger than he could ever imagine. The house felt eerily quiet after Alex left. His absence hung in the air, a weight I couldn't ignore. Mia had been at school when everything went down, so she hadn't witnessed the confrontation. When she came home that afternoon, she seemed unaware of the storm that had just torn through our lives. I didn't tell her everything, of course. She didn't need to know that her father had betrayed us. Not yet. But as soon as I saw her face, her sweet, innocent face, I realized something. I couldn't let this be the defining moment of her life. I couldn't let Alex's actions steal our peace, our happiness. She deserved more than that. And I, as her mother, was going to make sure she got it. But the truth was, I needed more than just the strength to survive. I needed something else. A kind of closure that didn't come from simply walking away. I needed revenge, not in the petty, vindictive sense, but in a way that would prove to myself and to Alex that he didn't own me. He didn't control my future anymore. I was going to take back what he had taken from me. I didn't know how to make that happen at first, but I knew I wasn't the same woman who had stood there, frozen in fear, just a few days ago. The fear was gone. The anger was still there, but it wasn't a weakness. It was fuel, and I wasn't going to let Alex destroy everything I had worked for. I had spent so long building a life, a future, and I wasn't about to let him tear it down. I spent the next few days sorting through my thoughts, taking time for myself. I didn't talk to anyone about what happened. No friends, no family. The only person I trusted, the only person who could understand the depth of my pain, was Mia. And while she didn't know the full story, she knew enough to see that I was changing. One evening, as I tucked her into bed, I kissed her forehead and smiled, masking the storm that still raged inside me. "We're going to be okay," I whispered. "No matter what happens, we're going to be okay." She smiled back, curling up in her covers. "I know, Mom. I love you." "I love you too, baby," I said, my voice steady but my mind already working on the next steps. As soon as she was asleep, I sat in the living room, going over every detail. Alex's betrayal wasn't just an affair, it was a destruction of the family we had built. It was his attempt to tear us apart and get away with it. But I wasn't going to let him. I reached for my phone and called my lawyer. I had been putting this off, afraid of the legal process, but not anymore. I was ready to take action. Alex was going to pay for what he had done, in more ways than one. "Hi, Linda," I said when she picked up. "I need to discuss something important." Linda was the lawyer who had helped me with some contracts years ago. She was sharp, quick, and always in control. I didn't want to go into too much detail over the phone, but I knew I had to start preparing for what was coming. "We need to start looking into a divorce," I continued. "But I need it to be more than that. I want full custody of Mia. I don't care what it takes. I want him out of our lives for good." Linda didn't ask questions. She didn't hesitate. "I'll start the paperwork, Isla. I'll handle everything from here. You don't need to worry about a thing." As I hung up the phone, a strange sense of peace settled over me. This wasn't about vengeance in the typical sense. This was about protecting my daughter, securing our future, and showing Alex that the game was over. He wouldn't walk away scot-free. He wasn't going to get to break us and then waltz away with no consequences. The next few days were a blur of legal meetings, paperwork, and quiet moments of reflection. But beneath it all, a plan began to form. I wasn't going to make this easy for Alex. I was going to expose him, show him for the liar and cheater he truly was. And I was going to do it in a way that would leave him speechless. But I didn't want to do it alone. Mia, though young, knew what had happened. She didn't have the full picture, but she understood enough. And she had been nothing short of a rock for me. As I watched her play with her dolls in the living room, I realized that I wasn't just fighting for myself, I was fighting for her too. I needed to show her that no matter how hard life got, no matter how painful the betrayal, we could rise above it. And together, we would make sure Alex never forgot what he had done. The first step of the plan was simple: gather everything. I started tracking down every message, Every email, every phone record. The proof of his betrayal was there, and I was going to make sure I had every single shred of evidence. As I worked late into the night, piecing everything together, the anger started to feel more like a tool, a weapon I could use to get the justice we deserved. I wasn't sure how far I was willing to go, but I knew this. I wasn't going to let Alex walk away like nothing had happened. He had made his choice. Now it was my turn. The days that followed were filled with a quiet intensity. I didn't speak to Alex much. I didn't need to. Every time I saw him, it felt like a reminder of the lie he had built, the double life he had been leading. His guilt was palpable, but it wasn't enough. It never could be. He was the architect of his own downfall, and now it was time for him to face the consequences. I knew I couldn't do this alone. This wasn't just about legal action anymore. It was about making him understand the depth of his betrayal. It was about shattering his perception of power, showing him that he couldn't simply walk away from this. I was going to need help. That's when I called in Mia. Mia was only 10, but she was sharp. Her perceptiveness, her quiet intelligence had always astounded me. I hadn't told her everything, didn't want to burden her, but she understood more than I gave her credit for. It was time she knew how much her mother had been hurt, how far I was willing to go for both of us to come out stronger. Mia, I said as I sat down beside her one afternoon, I need to tell you something important. I don't want you to be scared or worried, okay? But we're going to do something together. We're going to make sure things are right again. And we're going to show him once and for all that we're not just victims. She looked at me, her wide brown eyes filled with uncertainty, but also a quiet trust. What are we going to do, Mom? I hesitated for a moment. I didn't want to drag her into a world of bitterness and revenge, but I knew she was already affected by the situation. She could sense it. The betrayal, the lies. She needed to understand that her strength came from within, from the knowledge that she had a voice, even when the world tried to take it away. Alex hurt us, Mia, I said, my voice steady but heavy with emotion. He lied to us, he took our trust and broke it, but we're not going to let that stop us, we're going to fight back. Her lips quivered slightly as she nodded. What do I need to do? I need your help to gather some things, I said, feeling the weight of my own words. This was no longer just a legal battle. It was a battle for our dignity, for our future. We're going to show him who we really are. Mia didn't flinch. She just nodded again, determined. She wasn't a child anymore, not when it came to this. For the next few days, Mia and I worked together in silence, gathering everything we needed. Texts, emails, phone records, photos, anything that could prove Alex's infidelity and his lies. The more I dug into his messages, the more disgusted I became. But I couldn't stop. I had to make sure that when the time came, there would be no doubt in anyone's mind about who was to blame. I compiled it all into a file, neatly organized, carefully documented. I wasn't just going to present this in a court of law. No, this was going to be more than that. This was going to be public. He needed to feel the weight of his actions, to face the fallout of what he had done. I also reached out to a few people who had once been close to him. Old colleagues, mutual friends. Some were still in touch with him. Others had cut ties once they knew what had been going on. I needed their help, their testimonies. The truth was on my side, but I needed witnesses who could confirm everything. It wasn't long before the pieces were falling into place. I was prepared. Alex had no idea what was coming. I had kept him at a distance for days, and his attempts to reach out were becoming more desperate. He would send texts, leaving voice messages begging for forgiveness, but I ignored them all. He didn't deserve my attention. Not yet. The time to confront him had finally arrived. One evening, as I sat in the living room piecing together the final part of the plan, Mia came to me, holding her phone. "Mom," she said, her voice trembling, "I found something on his phone." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "What is it, Mia?" Her hands shook slightly as she handed me the phone. There it was, a picture of Alex and the woman he had been seeing. A woman who had no idea the kind of man she was dealing with. The look on Alex's face was everything I needed to see. His happiness was there for everyone to see, but it wasn't a happiness that came from love. It was a happiness built on lies, on deceit. I felt a strange mix of anger and satisfaction as I looked at the photo. This was it. This was the last piece of the puzzle. I was going to expose him. To everyone. Mia looked at me, concern etched in her features. Is this enough? I met her gaze, nodding. It's more than enough. The next day, everything was set. Alex had no idea what was coming. I was ready to take everything I had learned about him and put it out into the world. The pieces were falling into place, and soon everyone would know exactly who he was and exactly what he had done. As I prepared to confront him once more, I realized that I wasn't just doing this for me. I was doing this for Mia, for the life we deserved. And this time, Alex wasn't going to get away with it. I was going to make him feel everything, and I wasn't going to stop until I did. The plan was set in motion, but I couldn't help but feel a mix of adrenaline and dread as the day approached. I had spent the last few days refining everything, making sure the evidence was ironclad, and that Mia and I were both emotionally ready for what was coming. This wasn't just about taking legal action anymore. This was about exposing Alex for the man he truly was. I had arranged a meeting with Alex at a neutral location, one where we could talk without distractions or interruptions. I wasn't going to let him know what was coming until the moment I wanted him to understand just how deeply he had betrayed us. I could feel the power shifting as I prepared to take control. I still hadn't told Mia everything. She knew the basics. She knew her father had cheated and that he was going to face the consequences. But I wanted her to stay as untouched by the mess as possible. This wasn't her fight to win, it was mine. She would see the results soon enough, but for now, she just needed to focus on being the child I'd always wanted her to be, despite the storm swirling around us. The night before the meeting, I sat in the living room, my hands trembling as I went over the evidence again. I kept thinking about the day I found out, about the shock and the anger that had taken over my body. I had been so focused on the need for revenge, on the desire to break him, that I hadn't fully understood the toll it would take on me. I wasn't just trying to destroy his life. I was trying to rebuild my own. Mia had gone to bed hours ago and the house was silent except for the sound of the clock ticking in the background. I set my phone down and took a deep breath, looking at the pieces of my plan spread out in front of me. The documents, the phone records, the messages, and, most importantly, Alex's own admissions. I had everything I needed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was going to be bigger than I anticipated. As much as I was ready to expose Alex, I wasn't prepared for the emotional fallout that would come afterward. What would Mia think of all this? How would she cope with the truth? But then again, the truth was power. And that was what I was giving her, the truth, plain and simple. The day of the meeting arrived, and I felt like I was walking into a battlefield, though I couldn't tell if I was the soldier or the general. Alex texted me in the morning, asking if I was okay, pleading with me to give him another chance. I ignored the messages as planned. There was no room for emotion anymore. I had a goal, and nothing was going to distract me from it. I arrived early to the cafe where we were meeting. It was quiet, almost deserted at this time of day. I chose a table in the far corner, hoping to have a little privacy before the storm hit. When Alex walked in, looking worn and guilty, I knew it was time. He hadn't seen the storm coming, and he was about to be swept away by it. He walked over to the table, his eyes filled with hope, his lips curved in a small, unsure smile. "Isla," he began, sitting down across from me. "I know I've made mistakes, but I can't stand the thought of losing you. I want to fix this, I really do." I didn't say anything at first. I just watched him, letting the silence stretch between us. Finally, I reached into my bag and pulled out the phone, laying it flat on the table between us. His face went pale when he saw it, and his eyes flickered to the messages on the screen. He knew immediately what I had. He knew he was caught. "I know about her," I said, my voice quiet but steady. "I know everything, Alex. The texts, the meetings, the lies. You thought you could hide it from me, but I wasn't blind, I wasn't stupid." His face turned red, a mixture of shame and panic filling his eyes. "Isla, please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was confused. Stop." I cut him off, leaning forward. "I'm not interested in your apologies anymore. You don't get to apologize for ruining our family. You don't get to apologize for lying to me, for making me feel like I wasn't enough. You don't get to make excuses for destroying everything." He opened his mouth again, but no words came out. He was shaking now, visibly overwhelmed, and I could see the regret in his eyes, but it wasn't enough. Regret didn't fix broken trust. Regret didn't fix what he had done. "I'm done, Alex," I said softly, but the finality of my words hung in the air between us. "You don't get to destroy me and walk away without consequences, and you don't get to destroy Mia's life without facing what you've done." His eyes widened in confusion. "Mia, what do you mean?" I smiled coldly. "Oh, she knows. Mia knows exactly what you've done. She knows how you've lied, how you've hurt us. She doesn't need to see the evidence. She's already seen the damage. The truth doesn't need to be hidden anymore." He recoiled as though I had slapped him. "You told her?" No," I said firmly. "She knows what she needs to know, and when she's older, she'll understand everything you've done. But I've done something for her, Alex. I've built something for her. Something you'll never be able to take away from her." I slid the phone toward him. "This is the last chance you get. I'm taking full custody of Mia. You don't get to be a part of our lives anymore. Not after everything you've done." His face was pale now, his mouth working but failing to form coherent words. It was too late. His world was crumbling. The betrayal, the lies, everything was unraveling before his eyes. "You've lost, Alex," I said quietly, my voice steady. "And there's nothing you can do to change it. I'm not going to make it easy for you. You don't get to tear us apart and walk away. I will make sure everyone knows who you really are." I stood up to leave, the weight of the moment settling in my chest. As I turned and walked away, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Power. The power of choosing my own path. The power of taking control. And as I walked out of that cafe, leaving Alex behind, I knew that this was only the beginning. Alex had no idea what was coming next, but Mia and I? We were ready. It wasn't over. The moment I walked away from Alex in that cafe, I knew that was just the beginning. The fallout of everything I had set into motion was inevitable, and I was bracing myself for it. I could already feel the tension in my chest, the anxiety creeping in, but I couldn't let it stop me now. I had made my decision. I was going to take control of my life again. The first blow came the next morning. I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating against the table. I groggily reached for it, half expecting another one of Alex's desperate, guilt-ridden texts. But this one wasn't from him. It was from Mia's school. "Hello, Isla. We regret to inform you that there has been an incident involving your daughter, Mia. We request that you come in for a meeting at your earliest convenience." My stomach dropped. Mia? An incident? Panic flooded my veins and I rushed to get dressed, not even bothering to brush my hair as I raced out the door. At the school, I found Mia sitting outside the principal's office, her face pale, her eyes red. I could tell she'd been crying, and it broke me. I immediately knelt down in front of her, brushing her hair away from her face, trying to calm my racing heart. "Mia, sweetheart, what happened?" I asked gently, trying to stay composed even though my mind was spiraling. She looked up at me, eyes wide with fear. "Mom, I didn't mean to. I I told them everything, about Dad, about what he did. I didn't want to, but I couldn't keep it inside anymore." I froze, the weight of her words hitting me like a freight train. She had told her friends, told the whole school. My daughter, at 10 years old, had been carrying the burden of Alex's betrayal, and in her innocent heart she had been trying to process the pain. She had to share it, to make sense of the world that had been turned upside down. "Mia," I whispered, pulling her into a tight hug. "You don't have to worry about anything. You don't need to carry this alone. We're in this together, okay?" She nodded against my chest, still trembling, and I could feel the overwhelming guilt crawling under my skin. What had Alex done to her? What had he put us through? The principal, Mr. Palmer, cleared his throat from the doorway. "Isla, we just want to make sure Mia is okay. We can discuss this more in private if you'd prefer." I nodded, taking Mia's hand as we walked into his office. I wasn't angry at Mia, not in the least, but the reality of the situation hit me hard. The ripple effect of Alex's choices was reaching places I hadn't expected. Mia was hurting in ways I hadn't prepared for, and I had to fix this, not just for me, but for her too. We understand that there's been some tension at home, Mr. Palmer said, sitting down behind his desk, looking at me with concern. Mia's behavior has changed recently, and while we're sympathetic, we want to make sure this doesn't interfere with her learning or emotional well-being. I looked at Mia, squeezing her hand. I'm going to make sure she's okay. She's been through a lot, and I just want to make sure she has the support she needs. I'll make arrangements for counseling. Mr. Palmer nodded, but his gaze was still filled with concern. We'll support her however we can, Isla. Just let us know if there's anything we can do. I promised him that I'd stay on top of it, but inside I was a storm. I couldn't let this continue. I couldn't allow my daughter to suffer because of Alex's selfishness. The next few weeks were a blur. I arranged therapy sessions for Mia as well as for myself. The guilt weighed on me, knowing my daughter was paying the price for something she didn't deserve. But I had to be strong for her. I couldn't fall apart. Not yet. Alex didn't make things easy. His attempts to reach me were relentless. Texts, emails, calls, each one more desperate than the last. He begged, pleaded for forgiveness, but it was too late. The damage had been done, and every time I saw his name on my phone, I felt that familiar sting of anger. But I couldn't ignore the truth. His betrayal wasn't just an affair, it was the destruction of everything I had built with him. Our trust, our family, our future. And I wasn't going to let him walk away from this unscathed, not after everything. I set the final phase of my plan into motion. I contacted a journalist I knew from years ago, someone I trusted, someone who had always been supportive of me. It wasn't something I had planned initially, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that Alex's betrayal needed to be exposed. Publicly. Not just for the sake of our family, but for his own. He wasn't going to get away with it. He wasn't going to sweep this under the rug and pretend like nothing happened. I met with the journalist, outlining my plan. I gave them the proof, the photos, the messages, the emails. I had done everything by the book, but now it was time to turn the page. Alex would not escape the consequences of his actions. The article would run within the week. I knew the fallout would be intense, but I didn't care anymore. It wasn't just about punishing him, it was about taking my life back. It was about reclaiming the narrative and showing the world that I wasn't weak. I wasn't broken. And when the article hit, when the world knew the truth about Alex, I wasn't going to be the one left hiding in shame. He would be the one exposed. He would be the one left speechless. But even more than that, I was going to prove to myself and to Mia that we were stronger than anything Alex could throw at us. This wasn't just about revenge, this was about power, about reclaiming everything Alex had tried to take from us. And we were just getting started. The day the article went live, I felt a rush of both fear and relief. The headline was brutal, exposing Alex's affair in detail, accompanied by the screenshots of his messages and admissions. It wasn't just a betrayal, it was a portrait of the lies he'd been living. The story quickly spread like wildfire, and within hours, Alex was bombarded by calls, messages, and the undeniable weight of his own actions. I didn't watch him collapse in real time. I didn't need to. The truth had already done its job. My phone rang off the hook, but I ignored it. Instead, I focused on Mia, on ensuring she felt safe, loved, and protected. The article had been about Alex's consequences, but my focus was always on my daughter. That night, Alex showed up at the house, disheveled, his face a mixture of anger, regret, and helplessness. Why, Isla? Why did you have to do this? I'm begging you, just listen to me. I looked at him for a long moment, not a shred of emotion left for him. You had your chances, Alex. This is the consequence of your choices. You wanted to betray me, to betray us. You wanted this life, so now you get to live it. He didn't say anything else. He knew I was done, and I knew, deep in my gut, that I had done the right thing. The plan had worked. The revenge I'd longed for wasn't about revenge at all. It was about regaining control of my life, of giving myself the power I'd given away for years. The divorce papers were filed the next day. His reputation was in ruins, but I didn't care about that. The real victory was how I felt. The woman who had been betrayed, left broken, was now standing tall again. Alex had destroyed our family, but I had rebuilt it. In the weeks that followed, Mia and I thrived. We didn't just survive the storm, We grew stronger because of it. I no longer felt the weight of Alex's betrayal. I no longer felt weak. I had done what needed to be done for both Mia and myself. And when I looked at her, smiling as she worked on her homework, I knew I had made the right choice. Alex had been the storm that nearly tore us apart, but I was the one who emerged from it, unbroken. In the end, we didn't just take back control. We claimed it, fully and completely, and nothing would ever threaten that again.